Good evening and welcome to Around the Clock's live candidates debate/forum. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. I've been here on Around the Clock for 10 plus years, and it's always a pleasure to be able to share with our residents about the candidates that are running for different town offices here in Ashland. Tonight's forum is in two parts. The first is with our three select board candidates who are going to have an opening statement, then answer some questions and have some discussion. And then we'll close the first part of the show with them giving a closing statement, and that'll be about an hour, so till about 8 o'clock. We are going out live on the cable station as well as out through YouTube. So however you're watching it, thank you for being here, and let's get this party started. So our three candidates that are here tonight for Select Board are Brandy Kinsman, Joe Mignani, and Carlton Phelps.
Good evening.
I want to thank you all for being here, and I am going to apologize ahead of time to our audience and to you. I don't expect to have a coughing fit, but if my throat goes crazy, I'll be taking some water just so that I can make sure you can hear me and that our audience can hear me. Wonderful. We're going to start with opening statements, and we're doing it alphabetical by last name. So, Brandy, you get to start for us.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, just thank you to WACA and Around the Clock for putting this together. It's always a good opportunity to be able to talk about Ashland and also talk to my fellow candidates for Select Board. So thank you for that. I'm Brandy Kinsman. I am running for my third term on the Select Board. It's funny how fast 6 years goes by. So just a little background on me. I have lived in Ashland for about 19 years with my husband Dave, and we have one son who's going to be graduating from Ashland High School in just a few short weeks, which is crazy. I first started getting involved in Ashland about 9 years ago as part of the Ashland Redevelopment Authority. And then I became part of the group that brought the Corner Spot to Ashland, and that was a fun project. And professionally, like my day job, my actual day job, I am a national account manager for an asset management firm in Boston where I've been for about 20 years. And I have about 25 years of experience in communication and marketing and sales. And so my 6 years as a member of the Select Board, we've done a ton. We have invested quite a bit into our community. We had major capital projects, our public safety building, our new Mendez School, the revitalization of our downtown, and the Route 126 project, which is almost done. We've also added some amenities to Ashland, including the including the River Walk and the Trolley Brook Trail, and added some parcels for open space onto the town forest.
So I know you have a lot more. You probably have more to say, but
Yep.
we are at our 90 seconds.
Okay.
And we are going to have an opportunity to have conversation about
Okay.
these things as well. So
Okay.
Your 6 years have been very full, so
Yes.
we know we have some time to talk
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
Our next candidate who's going to give their opening statement is Joe Mignani.
Thank you, Yolanda. That's kind of hard to follow up with Brandy, but I'll do my very best. Hi, I'm Joe Mignani. I am running for re-election. I will be completing my fifth term as a Select Board member, which means I've been here for 15 years, and hopefully for another 3 if I'm lucky enough to get re-elected. I feel that I'm qualified with the years of experience that I have on the board, working with Brandy, working with Yolanda, and working with all the other selectmen and select board members over these 15 years. Yeah, we faced a lot of adversity over those 15 years, but we had a lot of accomplishments as well, like Brandy said. I'd just like to add that land preservation and land is very important to me in open space. So during my tenure, there's been over 404 acres of land that have been purchased and provided to the town forest and to open space. And most recently, a 54-acre parcel of land from UCC, which is the United Christ Church in Framingham, was purchased by Ashland for just a little over $1 million. 54 acres for $1 million isn't a bad deal. And that's going to be part of the addition to the Ashland Town Forest. So I'm very proud of that as well. Again, I've been here for 15 years. I'm a retired police sergeant, serviced for 34 years in town here. I've been married for 44 years, and I have 3 grown children, 9 grandchildren, no great-grandchildren yet, hopefully not. And I will continue over the conversations that we had with some of the other accomplishments that we have experienced over the years. But
Great.
that's
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
Joe. The same. We're going to have an opportunity to discuss the accomplishments that you've had and what we're looking forward to as a community. So our last candidate is Carlton Phelps. Carlton?
Well, first of all, I want to thank WACA-TV. Thank you, Madam Chair, for having me. To the candidates, Brandy, and Joe, I appreciate having this debate. Again, my name is Carlton Phelps. Hello, Ashland. I've been a resident for about 8 years now in Metro West, and I'm running for Select Board because I feel like I have solutions. I actually go out and talk to the residents of Ashland, and one of the things that comes up is not only do we need new blood, but we need new ideas towards a difficult future. Last week we had a town meeting, and it was very apparent that Ashland is going to be in some financial difficulties in the upcoming future unless we make some tough decisions. My background is that I've been in finance and sales for over 20 years. Most recently, I worked for the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston as a bank auditor, and I can really take a look at what we're actually doing from a financial perspective, as well as infusing from a social perspective what we're doing. A little bit also about me is that I'm a college basketball player. I played sports. I still am very active in the community. I volunteer at the YMCA. And I would say my platform is more going to be built around affordability, but also education and transportation and the things that are important to day to residents of Ashland. So thank you for listening to me today.
Okay, great. You didn't get the cutoff. Just about, though. Just about.
I talk too fast.
No, that's fine. Good. Well, thank you all for those opening statements. And as I said, this is really a discussion. I'll answer and I'll ask a question. Either if someone really wants to answer first, we'll do that. But I think it's the opportunity for each of you to talk about some of the issues that are certainly facing Ashland. So, Carlton, you mentioned financial issues. So this is a question I have, and there's a little bit of information before the actual question.
Okay.
And Carlton, I'll start with you for an answer. So balancing growth and preservation are key. Ashland is a town with a strong community identity, historic charm, and is in need of economic opportunities. As development continues, how would you ensure that new investments, businesses, and infrastructure projects enhance economic vitality while preserving the aspects that make Ashland unique? So that's the first question. And as you answer, think about this. What specific policies or strategies would you implement to maintain or create this balance?
Thank you. So in terms of our economic growth, I think the biggest thing is that we have to continue to increase commercial business. Right now, Ashland is not robust with commercial business. In terms of, commercial revenue. We need to increase that. I think the best idea and the best solution is we have to look at like communities. We have communities under 40,000 residents right next to us, such as Natick, for example. What are some of these other communities doing that is increasing their commercial revenue? And what is Ashland not doing? Now, to say that, also last week at the town meeting, there was a big discussion about making a historical district. I think we can do both. I think we can preserve Ashland, we can support our historical district and a historical committee as well, and also invite commercial business. We have to incentivize businesses, small business owners, developers, and work with them. I have a background in real estate development, also in auditing real estate, so I know a little bit about incentivizing it, whether it's through tax, working with the finance committee. We have to figure out ways to incentivize, and I think that would be probably the starting point from day one if Ashland residents choose to elect me.
Okay, great. Joe, your thoughts on that question?
Thank you. Colin, great answer.
Thank you.
It's not an easy answer. There's the solution to this is very difficult. Like you said, commercial growth Ashland wasn't built for commercial growth over the years. Former selectmen committees prior to me getting involved in politics, said Ashland was always going to be a bedroom community, and that's all it was ever going to be. So when they started the foundation of this town, when Fairford started building and changing the landscape of Ashland, there was no commercial growth even thought of. As a matter of fact, it was put in abeyance. I don't know if too many people realize this, but Ashland's Workman Circle area, Captain Ames, Algonquin Trail, that was going to be a brewery. And the town said no, because they didn't want to provide water and or sewer at the time for that growth. Can you imagine what that building or that business would have done for Ashland if it came into town? Not only would it provided growth, it would have provided jobs. And some of these people would have stayed on, for a long-term time. So you have to change the mindset of a lot of people in town. And now we have a demographic change where we have a lot more younger people in town, but there's still an older group that remembers that old way of doing things. And it's unfortunate that we have to, pit the two against one another. Doing something in a homogeneous way we have an economic developer management team. They're trying their best, but it's not easy. Ashland's not unique in this. All the surrounding towns are feeling the same thing. If you go up and down Route 9, like you mentioned, Natick, there are a lot of open spaces available that have commercial space open, and in a commercial space right now is dirt cheap because they're trying to get those places filled. So we have to think outside the box on that with respect to that. And it's not going to be an easy solution. It's going to be a slow process to get that happening so that we can do things. One of the things that we did years ago, back in 2010, we used the landfill site as a site for a solar farm. Nobody ever thought about that, but I asked the question, why can't we put a solar farm up there? Well, they did some research into it, and because of what we have a solar farm generating revenue to the town. So there's other ways of looking at besides commercial growth in town. And you're going to get an opposition with respect to that because there's so many. Just go down 126 and look at the spaces that are already open. Yeah. So it's a difficult. There's no easy answer to that question,
Right.
To be very honest with you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. Brandy?
So we've actually made a lot of progress with regards to our business community. I think it was about 7 years ago that we introduced our business incentive program to Ashland, and our economic development director proposed this as a home rule petition with the legislators. And basically, the meals tax funds the business incentive program, and we had some money that was set aside from Senate President Karen Spilka to help start and fund this. And basically, the business incentive program provides improvements for existing businesses, like a sign and facade improvement program, and for new businesses that are looking to come to town. We offer an amenities option where we can help subsidize whether it's equipment or rent for the first couple of months while a business kind of gets going. And then also in partnership with Needham Bank, we have a 0% financing option too, so that businesses can take out loans. And we've talked to so many new businesses that have come to Ashland, and really the business incentive program was really one of the reasons they came to Ashland. Like Zeta Fencing, you were talking about Natick, purposely moved to Ashland, partly because of the space, because they were able to get space in the Telecom building, but mostly because our business incentive program gave them a reason and a mechanism to be able to fund that move and fund the build out. So we're really super fortunate to have that as sort of a tool in our toolkit. And then when we were talking about historic preservation, once the public safety building was built, the town who owned the fire station, and we had put out an RFP to the public. Actually, we put out a survey to the public before there was an RFP to find out what the public wanted in that space. And the response from the public was really to bring either a restaurant or a brew pub into downtown Ashland, and to keep the historical nature of that firehouse, which was super important. And so when we put out the RFP, that's what we were looking for. We were looking for those types of businesses to come. And Clover Road, who had been in Hudson and was looking to pop up at the corner spot, actually, talked to Beth Reynolds, our economic development director, and saw the fire station and thought of this concept around Clover Road Tap Room that was born. And so what they've done to that space is really not only revitalized the fire station and kept it in its complete historic nature, and also paid homage to the firefighters that were there, but also it's literally changed the dynamic in our downtown, because the supporting businesses are all benefiting from the fact that Clover Road doesn't do food. So there's takeout options and delivery options from all of our downtown businesses. They're seeing more traffic. Even a restaurant like Erica's is seeing a lot more traffic because people are going to and from the brewery.
Takeout.
Yeah, and so it really is like, this is why we invested in our downtown, and we are able to still save the historical nature of some of our buildings and the things that make actually Ashland unique, and still add the vitality and to our businesses.
So on that note,
Yep.
because I think there's still no one, I mean, you mentioned some of the policies that we've already done, right? Specific policies or strategies that you would implement to maintain the balance. And on top of that, how can we manage our population growth and, again, encourage those businesses, right? We keep hearing from different people, we need more people in the downtown to support the businesses that are there.
Yes.
But how do we find that balance as a select board, right? It's what policies can be discussed or implemented to find that balance between wanting more people to live downtown, but also encouraging businesses and having space for those businesses to be there. What are some strategies? So think on that a second, and I'm going to have Joe start on this one.
Thank you. This is not something new, and Carlton is part of our Affordable Housing Trust Committee. This is a concept that we have discussed for a number of years and have brought up several times over this past year. The concern is getting people to wanting to live closer to town. You're not going to have families moving in closer to town. I have concerns with children and railroad tracks. That's not a good formula. That's not a good mix. I'm sorry. That's me personally. Other people may like that. I just think it's a disaster waiting to happen. But if you have senior citizens, which we have at 119 Main Street, and if we can develop that a partial area to continue providing housing for seniors in the downtown area, well, that they can walk. It makes it easier for them to, if you have businesses that are associated downtown, they can easily walk to these locations. We've just done revitalization downtown. The sidewalks are wider. We have more pedestrian crosswalk signs available, and it makes it a little bit safer. I'm not saying it's completely safe, but it's a little bit safer for them all. So, I mean, that's one way to look at it. You said with respect to policies.
Yep.
One of the things that I know that Michael was involved in when monies were coming in and how to generate additional monies and incomes, maybe we do a percentage like we did with the school. And the idea of us versus them has completely gone off the table. It's now us together at a 70-30 split. Now, maybe that's something we could do to incentivize some of the businesses to come to downtown. Maybe we can, like we used to do with the Affordable Housing Trust, is provide additional funding. If you provide this service, we can provide you some funding to help out that way, maybe on the 70-30 split, like the policy that we have for the schools.
Okay, great.
So,
Good. I'm going to go to Brandy and then Carlton.
So as far as policy goes, I know that we've made some slight changes to the business incentive program to really focus on really like commercial corridors. So we talk about downtown, we talk about Route 126, and we talk about 135 as sort of like the three main commercial areas in Ashland. And as far as like density goes, you definitely need density in downtown. You need people walking. You need people to support the businesses. I've talked to Lisa Churchill at Blush and Ed over at the Bagel Table. And to be honest, they're struggling. You talk to Hannah over at Reiki, and they're struggling, and so they need people to help support those businesses. As far as like the development that balancing growth, because I'm sure we're probably going to get into more of the growth things, but having density downtown makes sense. Redeveloping the parcel, the mill building parcel makes sense. Does the project that's in front of ZBA with the 5 stories and 250 units make sense? I don't think that that's probably in the best interest of Ashland, but I do feel like they are making an attempt to keep commercial as part of that project. The developer has never had commercial in any projects he's ever done before. He does purely housing, and we've advocated for commercial space there. We've advocated for keeping the historical nature of the mill buildings that are downtown, and so the project that is before ZBA right now has 2 of the mill building, the old granite mill building facade still intact, and really does kind of still preserve some of that historical and bring that commercial aspect to downtown. And then as far as other policies that we can work on, it really is trying to make downtown a destination. And that is, part of what makes like summers in Ashland so amazing, because people walk from Corner Spot to the farmer's market and now to Clover Road and to our restaurants. And so it's really trying to make downtown Ashland a destination for us.
Okay, Carl?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to be a little bit more macro. I actually don't think policies are the issue, okay? So we've obviously in Ashland done some good things, and Brandy's alluded to it, and I'm on the Affordable Trust with Joe here, and I think we have to utilize our tools a little bit better. What I mean by that is we have 60% of the select board sitting here tonight. So I'd like to throw it back to you guys and make it more conversational. Does the Finance Committee have a budgeting tool, a capital budgeting tool? And if they do have a capital budgeting tool, how are they utilizing that capital budgeting tool? My treasurer lives in Arlington, and they're not in any financial issue, but they also have a capital budgeting tool that they use, which is a 5-year tool that is able to see when it comes to prosperity, we only have 2 choices. We've got to either increase revenue or we've got to decrease revenue somewhere, right? So what is our tool? What are the tools that we're using? Because these policies, let me just remind people, we just, in our last budget, borrowed $2.7 million from our reserve fund. We have $5.5 million left. Not sustainable, correct? So unless we're going to borrow $2.7 million from our reserve fund every single year, I think we've got to look beyond just policies and really figure out what tools are we using and who's using those tools. Are they utilizing those tools in the correct way? And that's one of the reasons why I'm running.
Okay. Joe or Brandy, would either of you like to respond or give?
Yeah, if I may, Brandy,
Okay.
if you want to go first,
go
I'd be
ahead.
happy to. Colin, you're not wrong. We would lose our AAA rating if we continue that source of funding, our budget year after year, and taking that money out of our reserve funds. We would lose our AAA rating completely. Standards & Poor has already made a slight comment to Mike Herbert about the fact that you're taking money out of the stabilization account when, you should look at other matters.
Mike Herbert, the town manager.
The town
Yeah.
manager, right. So with respect to that, I would say that we need to make sure that what we do, it's a mindset. And we're probably going to talk about this later on, but I'll start that discussion right now. It's a mindset as to what the townspeople want. What do they want a lifestyle? I mean, they're accustomed to certain things that they have for services right now, and these services cost X. If you want to continue those services, you're going to have to provide funding. Now, we have no idea what we're going to be getting from the state and or the federal government at this point in time. So we're all apprehensive as to what we're going to do. So we're being very conservative in that approach. And that has helped us. That reserve fund was only $1 million when Mike took over, town manager took over. it was now over $8 million that he's, over the years, made that initial funding much greater than it ever has been. So that conservative approach works, but to what extent? People are happy with the services that they currently have. Our tax rate is not the highest, but it's not the lowest. We're in between. So we have to ask the townspeople, what do you really want? Do you want these same level services? Because I'm looking in a year or two, and we may not have the level services. We may have to cut people. We may have to cut services. And that, to me, is not a way of keeping a lifestyle that people are accustomed to. They pay taxes, their assessments in their homes have gone up, so the value of their homes have gone up, as have their taxes as a result of that. So they want to make sure that they get their best bang for their buck right now. And we have to make sure, as a board, and with the finance committee, you ask for what tools. I don't know what they have available to them, I really don't. They're their own separate entity. They do what they have to do. I know Mike is in contact with them with respect to that. We don't have a representative to the finance committee. Maybe that's something that we should entertain down the road, is putting a board member as a representative to see, what they can do, or be part of that discussion from the get-go, and not, Johnny come lately, at that, so that's where I'm at.
Okay. Brandy?
So part of the reason that our budget was running at such a deficit this year was, as people may be aware, property taxes, the tax levy can go up 2.5% legally every year. The majority of that 2.5% this past year was really actually in fixed costs, and so little of the budget is actually discretionary. In fact, I think our health insurance went up 12 or 14% this year. So that almost that entire 2.5% was towards our health insurance. So so part of it is increase in costs. So we have inflation, and we've had that in all aspects, including things on the school side. We had two tri-board meetings, and then additional budget meetings that we talked about all of this. But where the schools are seeing a much higher budget need because of a couple major things. One is out-of-district placements, where we are sending school-age children to other schools that are specialty schools, that we can't service those kids here in Ashland, and that there's a cost associated with that. The other part is the increase in transportation costs, and so that is part of it. And Joe alluded to the financial policy that we have with the school committee, with the schools, where there is a 70-30% split on any revenue that comes in. 70% goes to the schools, 30% goes to the municipal side. The problem is like that 30% on the municipal side it's a big umbrella. It's a really big umbrella. So the schools are really kind of packaged in a very concrete way. You have a certain amount of teachers, you have a certain amount of curriculum, you have a certain amount of students, and you get a certain amount of funding from the state and Chapter 70 money, which goes towards the education. And the revenue, on the revenue side, 70% goes towards the schools. On the municipal side, this covers like a big swath of everything else, which basically is our public safety, our services at the community center, our library, our town hall staff, our health department, all of our elder services. Like it's a big umbrella. So when we talk about what we can cut, there's really nowhere to trim easily and without the community seeing a real reduction in services. So, Joe had talked about, we need to figure out what the community wants. And we have to do, as a select board, a better job of really communicating what those services are, what it would mean to cut. So if we were to cut, say, on the public safety side, and we needed to cut, say, 2 firefighters, that might be a difference of how many firefighters can go out on a call when there's an emergency. And most of our firefighters, all of our firefighters, are also EMTs. So it's not about fires, it's about people having heart attacks and people needing people to help them in certain situations. So, the thing about it is it's incredibly complex, and it's incredibly hard to communicate all the nuances in it. And we as a select board have to, that's our charge. That is what we need to do, is talk about the value of the services that we provide, because the town really does rely heavily on the services and likes the high level of service we provide. So that's going to be a conversation for the future.
Madam Chair, are we able to discuss? Or?
Okay, but you don't, I'm not Madam Chair tonight,
Yolanda,
so.
Yolanda.
Sure, if you want to respond, that
Yes.
would be, yep.
Yolanda, are we able to respond?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So I want to be clear. So those fixed costs you bring up, Brandy, those costs aren't going away.
Right.
So the 12% increase on health care, I believe. Also, I think it's debt service coverage, possibly on people's pensions.
Yep.
These aren't going away. So I think we need to really focus, and this is why I'm running, on increasing commercial revenue. These services are fixed. Nobody's pension is getting reduced. No one's health insurance is going to be reduced. I do think we have to focus. Now, there are services, and I agree, we have to talk about service cuts here and there that may come to the table. But I think the focus really would have to go to what ways can we incentivize commercial business to increase revenue? Because I think if we get away from that, I think that we're losing the trees for the forest. And I just want to say that.
And so
Yolanda.
what is your idea for doing that?
Incentivize. We have to figure out whether it's tax, whether it's whatever it is
Yeah.
that we do. The people that are incentivizing have to know what they're doing. They have to have relationships. They have to have the experience. I personally have worked with developers, okay? I've worked with small business owners. I have small business owners in this community that are endorsing me. And I know that I work well with them to have the conversation. I would go to, just for example, to be a little bit more specific, we can go to restaurants, right? We can go to Erica, speak to Erica, and actually figure out what is it going to take to increase your revenue? What are some of the things that incentivize your business, right? As a community. Same thing with developers. The big buzzword that we hear is 40B, right? Developers can come in and kind of bypass zoning, and me and Joe are on the Affordable Housing Trust, so we talk about it all the time. But the question is, who's speaking to these developers? Who's speaking to the people that potentially can help to increase revenues in some way, some form or fashion, right? And when I say that, developers have a big opportunity in our community. They have a big opportunity to grow our community, right? With maybe even a younger base. Joe talked about maybe our community as getting a potentially younger base of families and people that can bring revenue right around downtown. There's a lot of opportunities, but this is all going to come back to relationships. What are our relationships, and what are the people that on the select boards experience with those relationships, and how does that impact us financially?
Okay, I'm gonna, actually, before you, I'm gonna take that one off the table, because I think, listening to the conversation, I wanna ask, and I'm gonna ask each of you this question: what is your understanding of the role of a select board member? Think about that for a second. As you're running for this position, and Brandy and Joe, you've been sitting there, Carlton, you're looking to step in. What is your understanding of what the role of a volunteer member of the select board means? And who wants to go first?
Well,
I'd like Carlton to go first, actually, because I would love to hear what you think we do.
Go ahead, Carlton.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, I've been to meetings and I've read minutes, and I've so some of the policies that are obviously in town are agreed upon by the select board, right? Yeah. So that's the big deal of the policies that we agree that come down from. You talked about the municipality, the town manager. They have a separate entity. The town runs, through the town manager and their staff. But the select board agrees on the policies that affect the town and the businesses and going forward. The reason why I'm so financially heavy is that they're intertwined. At this point, when you can continue to go down a road of insolvency, the select board is not going to matter as much. So that's why it's it's crucial. It's important to talk about both. It's important to talk about. You talked about the tri-board. You got to at this point talk about both, because we can talk about open space, we can talk about funding and grant money, and I can't remember who said it. I think might have been you, Joe. But we don't know where the federal government is going. We don't know how that trickles down with the state in terms of grant money. I'll throw a question back to you, Brandy. Talk to me a little bit about grant money. Where are we? Have you had any communications with state officials, our reps, our state senators? Are we on board of getting the same allotted amount of money that has been promised? Is it gray area? Can you speak to a little bit about that?
Yep. So,
And that's for both of you.
yeah, no, so.
Why don't you start with the response, though, to what you consider your role, and then you can answer Carlton about the grants.
Sure. Okay. So the select board, you talk about the policy and what does that mean? So we direct the priority projects of the town. So we work with the town manager. We supervise the town manager. We also hire and fire our town council. But we set the strategic umbrella for what the town is going to focus on. That is also in conjunction with the public. So it's a public process. Our work is a public process. But we do a little bit of everything. So we are the licensing board for our liquor licenses in town. We are the licensing board for entertainment at establishments, even Class 2 licenses for auto sales. And we are the designated people that listen to dog hearings when there's a dangerous dog. Mm-hmm. So, there is kind of a lot. We also work on the warrant for town meeting and approve the budget, and we have many, many meetings about the budget. We also set the rates for water and sewer. We talk about the tax rate in our town. We have lots of discussions about our revolving funds and trash and snow removal and all the things that kind of go into making the town run. The town manager is responsible from an operational standpoint of the day-to-day operations of the town, and his role is to keep the select board as much in the loop on everything as possible. So there is, when I tell you that there is that what you see at a meeting is about 10% of what we are collectively all working on, because not only that, but the select board members all have other responsibilities. I was on the housing production plan, which we finished in 2021. I've been a member of the comprehensive plan steering committee for the last 2 years, so we're planning for Ashland's future. So the select board is it is a volunteer role, but it is very much a serious time commitment. And I am an all-in kind of person, and when I decided to run for select board 6 years ago, I did my due diligence and understood all the committees that the select board appoints, because we appoint, I think it's something like 25 or 30 committees. So everything from sustainability and the ZBA to conservation and
Affordable Housing Trust.
And the Affordable Housing Trust. Yep. So the breadth is big, and every meeting we have is different because we handle different things at every single meeting. But at the top level, we are setting the direction for the focus of the town, but we couldn't do that without the public. And so all of us are really a part of public conversation, and that's a good chunk of what we do. We all get emails, we all get calls, and it's being a part of this community, which is an awesome part, because it just gives back so much.
Answer
The grant?
I'm actually going to let Joe answer about the select board role, and then you can start with the grant
That's
answer.
quite all right. Thank you.
Sorry, I was talking.
And that's okay.
Brandy hit it on the head with everything that she mentioned with respect to what we do as a board and the members of the board. It's not a 2-hour meeting that we have on Wednesday nights. That's all we do. Counting those that I'm part of the Affordable Housing Trust, but I'm also a member of the Roadway Safety Traffic Committee. Takes up time. We hit complaints from the residents in town about traffic issues, from speeding to having signs put up for, watching out for children and things of that nature in different neighborhoods, and every neighborhood is different. One of the committees, one of the other departments that Brandy didn't mention, but I would like to add, is that the DPW and the maintenance of the roads. Every development, there are new roadways coming in, so there's an additional workload added to the DPW. And the only time they get their kudos is during the wintertime, when people want their streets plowed. During the summertime, when everything is nice and everything is great, you don't hear from them. People don't say, "Oh, what are they doing? They're not doing it." Oh, no, they're doing things throughout the day and throughout the months. They also do things with respect to the cemetery, park trees and cemeteries. Who maintains the parks? Who maintains the fields in town right now? Well, the town is taking care of that, and that's the DPW. A lot of people don't realize that. Oh, the school doesn't maintain that? No, the town does.
Joe, I'm going to ask you to pull it back to your understanding of
So my
what the role
understanding
of a
is, what do I
select board-
do? What do I do? I don't sit there just to look pretty. I sit there to get myself involved. When I started this 2010, one of the concerns I had is that the board that was sitting on at the time did not want to hear from the residents in town. There was a room full of people, and the selectmen at that time called the meeting and adjourned the meeting. Well, there was a full room of residents that wanted to speak. And at that point, when you stymie residents from being heard, that's not democracy. Far from it. It's the total opposite. So that made me think about, okay, we need to make this change. So that's why I got involved in the politics aspect, and that had a lot to do with the Warren Woods aspect of it, and maintaining the beautiful area up there off of Chestnut Street, and keeping an historic area, which is rightfully so, the Warren legend and its legacy up there, and it's maintained as a result of that. If not, that board at the time did not want to purchase Warren Woods, and there was a big hassle over that. But for me personally, besides the policies and overseeing some of the things that are being done through town, like Brandy said, we have two positions that we hire and fire: town manager and town council. But we also provide an agenda for the town manager to provide, to follow through. And we have these meetings, and we sit down and we discuss what we would like to see happen, and we make sure that it's followed to the T as to what we would like to see go on. And Michael will come back and report as to what he has done and what he hasn't done and what he will continue to do down the road. And right now, we're watching very diligently with a new change in positions and his management staff. They're all fairly new. They're not new to the town, but they're new in these positions. There's going to be a learning curve, so we have to make sure that we watch over that and make sure that everything is done the way people want it to be done, so things don't fall through the cracks with respect to that. So we're like watch guards at the same token, but we also want to make sure that the agenda that we set forth is an agenda that is done at the request through the town manager.
Answer the grant question in 2
Really
minutes
quick.
or less.
Yes, I will
or
be
1
very
minute or
quick.
less, and then we have a few more minutes, and I have a couple more questions that
Okay,
I'd like to
so
ask.
super quick. So Senate President Karen Spilka and Representative Jack Lewis were at our meeting last month and did sort of an update of what's happening on the state level. We meet with them. We meet with their teams once a quarter in general. So we are very much connected to what's happening on the state level. As far as the grants go, when the funding on a federal level first started to kind of look shaky, we were worried, on the municipal side, we were worried about two major grants. One was funding that we had used for the purchase of the UCC property for the town forest. And the second was money that we were supposed to be getting back in a grant form from, on the Mendez School for, like this green initiative, basically.
Do you have the
So-
totals, Brandy?
It was 3.2 million on the Mendez, grant, and I believe the UCC grant was probably, I don't know, I don't have the exact amount, but I think it was like $600,000. And so we had, that's on the municipal side, and we did hear that both of those grants are safe and that we did receive the funding for both of those grants, which is good because otherwise we would have had to figure out the property, especially because we had already purchased the property. And on the school side, it's going to be a little complicated too because there are grant-funded teacher positions, and they rely heavily on what's called the circuit breaker, which funds in a year in arrears the special education budget. So they are hoping that those positions come through. They haven't. There's no guarantee on anything, which is also part of the problem. So we are, as a community, we had to pass a budget. We had to pass a balanced budget, and that's what we did. And if the state and the federal government, if things change, we will have to change as well. So that is what we're doing. But we are staying in close contact with our state representatives because they are fighting for us and keeping us in the loop on anything that they're seeing on their end.
If I could,
Real quick.
real quick, piggyback real quick, because it is important, and the townspeople need to hear this, is that federally, the Department of Education is possibly, could possibly be eliminated. And as a result of that, any and all funding, when it comes to special education, is gone, federally. That will definitely put many of us, I would say not just Ashland, but every single municipality in the country in some dire straits because we were looking for that money to help with special ed programs and transportation, which are the two major issues right now. And I know that Mr. Adams, who is the superintendent of schools, is very concerned about that right now, especially through our tri-board meetings that we've had.
Yep, good. We have about 12 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to think about this when I ask the question and try to be brief and concise with your answers. I know that's sometimes hard for some of us. What specific initiatives would you prioritize to strengthen community engagement and ensure residents feel heard in town decision-making? It's been discussed a lot, so think about it. And Joe, would you like to go first on that?
Sure.
And
Why
again,
not? I got broad shoulders.
concise answers. I might limit you to a few minutes.
Okay. Difficult question, and not an easy answer. But I would say that having gone through this process once before, I would say that making sure the initiatives that we have previously worked on continue and we follow through with completing them and not just leaving them in abeyance and holding off on things like we've done in the past. We still have other projects that are still on books, Valentine property, Warren Pond. These would be great to have these things completed, the funding to do it. We have one-time funding that we helped this year have a balanced budget. Not the right thing to do, but we voted to do that, and that was the ARPA money, and that had nothing to do with the stabilization
I'm
fund.
gonna stop you because I want you to talk specifically about strengthening community engagement as we make these decisions. And if you want to think a little bit. Or Brandy, do you want to jump in?
I'll jump
Carl,
in.
Go ahead.
I agree with a lot of what Joe's saying. One of the things that I think that I would do from day one would get involved with any type of technological dashboard. I think that we have to recognize more people, and I'm using my hands a lot, right? But more people have phones nowadays. And I think that's a difference that you called it a bedroom community or smaller communities or whatever you want to label Ashland. Ashland is a cohesive community. Ashland's a lot of people that get along. But the one thing we don't have, even though Michael Herbert does a great job with the newsletter, I read the newsletter every week, I'm sure everyone at the table reads the newsletter, he does a great job. We don't have, I feel like, a robust dashboard, whether it's an app or I know we're developing a couple of different things on the website, but I don't feel like we have a lot of, when I'm in town and I'm speaking to people or, I'm at your local pub or wherever I'm at, I don't feel a lot of people engaged technologically with what we have going. I don't think people are on necessarily like an Ashland app or they're going to the website. And I think we have to really relook at or re-engineer how we're doing technology in terms of apps and engagement. Most people are nowadays engaged on our apps. There's people right now that are watching this that are going back and forth on an app. So we just have to be honest about our community as it gets younger, hopefully, and we have more revenue coming in. These residents are probably going to benefit from engagement through either an app or some type of technology that would be more like a dashboard.
Okay, Brandy?
So, we need to hit on the community engagement and kind of, part of it is the newsletter, which has like a huge reach. It actually, I think it's 6,000 people that goes out to, and the open rate is tremendous on a weekly basis. So that is one definite mechanism that we're using for community engagement. The other is the select board has done office hours, which has been very popular, especially like in the summer, we're at the farmer's market quite a bit. And that has given residents an opportunity to come to us and talk. And also just in general, Yolanda and I sit on this comprehensive plan steering committee. That group has done a tremendous job at community engagement, partly because that is what this task is really getting community buy-in. And so, we've surpassed sort of our community engagement goals, if you will, for that project. And I think some of the lessons that we've learned during that process, which is, again, multiple ways of reaching people, whether it's through surveys, whether it is through in-person meetings. We generally have a public forum whenever there's a big thing that we are working on, and that we take lots and lots of public comment on that. And I think that the community engagement piece, as we go through, say, the growth and the development and possibly these budget issues that we're going to discuss, it is our job to really bring the community along with us. And that is something that has been my strong suit. I'm probably, out of our whole board, I am probably the most active on social media, and I send out a ton of emails. When I ran for office initially, I sent out weekly newsletters to people, just as where I was and what I was learning and what I was doing, because it's a good way to interact with people. And the community gets to know you and feels like they can trust you. And that's part of it too, is really being somebody that they can trust and that they know that you'll work hard for them. And that is really like what this job is about.
Joe, do you want to add anything else about the community engagement?
Well, sure.
Getting our community along with us?
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to wrap
Sure.
up for closing statements.
The other concern is that, we have Facebook, and I know a lot of people are on Facebook. There are a lot of Ashland groups that are on Facebook, whether it be the community group that instills Ashland or the Ashland Complaint Department. They're always, adding something to the mix, which it's freedom of speech, and it's a democracy at its best, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I just wish that people would be more. When you have this type of initiative, you have to make sure that there's truth that comes out, and not falsehoods that are portrayed as truth.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that. And I'm a true believer in making sure that, if I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to talk to them in person. Because if they don't hear it from my mouth, and they say, oh, you said, no, I didn't say that. Did you hear me say that? Because if I did, then there's something wrong. Or if I didn't, then you're listening to the wrong people. So just make sure that we don't get all wrapped up in this initiative of spreading out all this information, but make sure the information, one, is reliable, truthful, and transparent. Because I haven't heard that word yet tonight.
Yep.
Transparency. And I think that's a big issue. It always has been and always will be.
Great. Well, thank you all, and believe it or not, but it is just about 8 o'clock. That hour flew. I loved the conversation and the discussion that was had, and I look forward to, after the election, for all of us to continue these conversations. Because to our residents, it doesn't matter who, I mean, it will matter to you, depending on your preference, who is sitting on the select board, but I think as residents of this community, I hope that whatever happens, we all decide to move forward to support our community. We're going to go into 90-second closing statements, and Carlton, you get to go first.
Well, thank you, Yolanda. Thank you for WACA-TV having me. Both candidates, Brandy, Joe, I appreciate the conversation tonight. I think it was very engaging, and I hope the community feels the same. My name is Carlton Phelps, and I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, May 20th at Ashland High School. The reason is I think that I do have solutions because I go out into the community and I speak to people and I listen. I don't just say I have solutions. I listen to what people in the community of Ashland are saying. I love this community. I'm on the Ashland Affordable Housing Trust. I'm on the Ashland Democratic Town Committee. And the biggest thing going forward that I hear people are concerned with is affordability and cost of living, right? So not just affordability, but cost of living. Two kind of separate things that are intertwined. As Brandy and Joe have spoken about here earlier, we are living in inflationary times. And in these inflationary times, I believe my experience with finance as it meets public policy is going to be very helpful. I do recognize the select board is bigger than financial as well. There's a lot of things in terms of community engagement that I want to bring to the table. I talked about technology, engaging people through newsletters and apps, as well as the biggest thing that we can do is go out again and listen to make sure that whatever we do as a select board, it resonates with the community and everyone can be happy. Again, I'm Carlton Phelps, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Carlton, thank you much. Oh, I apologize. I almost made it through the hour.
You almost.
You almost did.
You almost did. You did a great job.
I'm good. I'm
Take
good.
Take some more
Yep.
water.
Joe, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. Being a lifelong resident here of 69 years, I can say that I bleed blue. I'm a true clocker right through thick and thin. And anybody that went to Ashland High School like Nate knows that what being a clocker is all about. I love this town. I always will. And I will fight for this town in every way, shape, and form. And one of the concerns that I have is the 40B initiatives that we have to follow through the state legislation. And one of the things that I will continue to strive for is to bring developers that are willing to build affordable units in town, but that are pleasing to the town's landscape, that without a threat of 40B, hopefully there could be a friendly 40B and we've had that before. And I will campaign to revise the state legislation on 40Bs, needing to adhere to the ZBA and planning bylaws of each town, because right now they're not being utilized at all. If anything, they have currently been ignored completely. Over the past 15 years, I think I have proven to the residents of Ashland my leadership skills, the experience, the vision, and the integrity to hold as a select board member. I will continue to work for the town of Ashland, and I will continue to work for all residents, no matter who they are, what they are, or how old they are. I am a member of the Traffic Study Safety Committee, Affordable Housing Trust, and the original member of the Ashland Day Committee, and the Charter Review Committee, which needs to be redone again. So I ask for your vote, and I want to thank WACA Yolanda for hosting the show, and I would appreciate your continued support on May 20th, and I ask for your humble support and vote. Thank you.
And let's wrap it up, Brandy.
Okay. So thank you again to WACA for hosting this, and Yolanda. This was a great conversation with the two of you. We can see that Ashland is going to have some major challenges in the next couple of years. We're going to be balancing the growth that we're going to see, which is coming to us all at once, with how to preserve the character of the town that we love. And we're going to have to do some real long-term planning on the needs and the services and the infrastructure that is going to need to support that growth in town. And how do we do that with the budget constraints that we're going to face? And so I think, the town really needs serious people who are going to dig in and look for some real, understand the issues, understand what the problems that the town will be facing, and bring the community along with it, because I think that is part of the process. And that is really what I bring to the table, is really that's my skill set. And there's a lot to look forward to in Ashland. We've got kind of a really great year coming up, actually. We're looking forward to the Metro West YMCA coming to Ashland, the Ashland Arboretum. We've been making some great strides on the Upper Trail, which we didn't even get a chance to talk to tonight. And then, the long-awaited dog park, will hopefully break ground this year as well. So, if I'm reelected, I will promise to work hard for the community, as I always do. And I'm so grateful for our amazing town, and I'm proud of the accomplishments that we've made in the last 6 years. And it's been a real privilege to serve this community. And so thank you for your support. And I ask for your vote next Tuesday on May 20th. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all so very much for being here, to our residents. I would say you could do early voting, but that was actually today.
Today?
Yeah.
We only had one day of early voting. So if you didn't do early voting, or if you didn't do a mail-in ballot, the election is next Tuesday, the 20th, at the Ashland High School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So make sure you get out and vote, because, as they say, what happens locally is more important sometimes than what's going on federally. So again, thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you. Go Clockers.
There you
Go
go.
Clockers.
And
Great.
Celtics. We're
And
sharing
Celtics.
this.
Oh, we're
Celtics.
sharing it with
We're sharing
Celtics.
tonight, that's right.
Great. Okay. Here at Around the Clock, we're going to take a short, brief break while we allow these candidates to step away, and we have some other candidates for you to meet tonight for some of the other uncontested races that are happening on the ballot next Tuesday at our election. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Around the Clock discussion with candidates. We just had a very lively discussion with our 3 select board candidates who are going to be on the ballot, who are on the ballot for the May election here in Ashland. And we can't really talk about early voting anymore because that was today, May 14th. But we can talk about the ballot and the election that is coming up on Tuesday, May 20th, happening at the Ashland High School. To that point, we now have 2 candidates for the planning board, but they are here for 2 different seats. So we have Scott and Camillo. Camillo, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself. And Camillo is running for the 5-year seat that Kate Jerzyk, who is currently on our planning board, has decided not to run for re-election. Camillo has decided to run for that. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Sure, thank you, WACA, for having me here. My name is Camilo Spitia. I live on 3 Treasure Way. That's about almost exactly at the 5-kilometer marker of the Boston Marathon, so it's something we enjoy doing with our neighbors and our friends. We've been doing it for the past 6 years, which is the time I've been here in Ashland. I previously lived in the Boston area, and then prior to that in New York. I'm a planner. I've been working in the planning world for almost a decade, and before that as an architect for almost 2. And I'm excited to call Ashland home, and I hope to call it home for the next decades or so.
Great, thank you so much, Camillo. Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Scott Pelletier. I've lived in Ashland with my family since 2017. My oldest son graduated Ashland High School last year. My younger son is a senior this year, so he's graduating in a couple weeks. My wife works in Boston. I've done a plethora of jobs over kind of my career. Ran big box retail for a really long time. Ran Amazon for about 5 years. I was at a sort center, then did Amazon manufacturing. Then a couple years ago went into business for myself. Did a little bit of consulting, and now I've just opened up a property management company. We focus on residential property management in the area. I've been a real estate agent kind of part-time for about 7 years, and I'm excited to be here. I'm a member of the Ashland Business Association, and I've been on site council for the last 2 years for the high school. So I wanted another way to give back to the community, and this seems like a great opportunity for it.
Great. Well, thank you both for being here and for taking the opportunity and the time to come speak with us. Planning board can be very technical, very detailed. You've talked a little bit about some of your experiences. What do you hope to bring to the Ashland Planning Board? I won't say if you're going to be elected, because I expect you both to be sitting in the planning board as of next week. But actually, Scott, why don't you start? What do you hope to bring to the planning board with your experience?
Sure. So I kind of look at it in 2 different ways. One, a strong logistical background, right? So working in manufacturing, working with large corporations and large operations, you need a lot of attention to detail. You need to make sure you're following through with everything. A lot of planning, a lot of dates that you have to hit to have things ready to go for the market. And then the flip side is a business mind. I'm coming in here as a business owner. I really have the point of view of a small business owner. How can Ashland be better for business is kind of one thing that's kind of always on my mind. And then also, so maybe 2.5 things. Also, housing, right? So, as somebody who's been in real estate, as somebody who does property management, my thoughts are always on how can our community have more housing, like how can we be affordable housing for people? And I love Ashland. To me, moving into Ashland was probably one of the best things my family's done. And if we can have that for more opportunities for more people in our neighboring communities or want to get into our community, I think that makes us better. So those are really kind of the thought process of how I think I can contribute to the planning, both logistical piece and then, through that business mindset.
Okay. Camillo, same question for you. What can you bring to the planning board to help with the issues that they're going to be looking at?
Sure. I'll first mention why I'm running to the board, and that'll bring me to the qualifications and what I can bring to the table. I think the first reason is being the excitement of being part of the team that shapes the character of the town, that shapes and improves the quality of life of the people in Ashland. I see it as an opportunity, just as Scott mentioned before, as an opportunity to serve the community and do my public service for a community that I love now. I see it as an opportunity to bring my expertise to the table. I'm the deputy director of the Department of Planning and Development for the City of Lowell. I've been working in the planning department for the past 4.5 years. I think that expertise is fundamental to some of the things that we'll be discussing when it comes to development, especially now that we are in the transition of trying to replace our town planner. But also see it as an opportunity to learn from the community and grow with them through collaboration. I see it as an opportunity to engage with the community, with developers, with the business community, with the town officials in open conversations about how through planning we are actually achieving the goals that we set ourselves in the Envision Ashland Master Plan. And ultimately for the future, right? Whatever we plan today is not only just for today, it's for the future of Ashland, it's for the kids who live here now and deserve the right to remain in this community, making it affordable for them to stay within the community that they grew up in, staying within the friends that they grew up with, within their families. And so there's multiple opportunities to make sure that we shape that future for Ashland through today and the actions that we take today, making it more affordable, working for the business community as well. And my planning background is something fundamental for this.
Are you looking for a new job or? No, we'll keep you for planning board now and then we'll go from there. You mentioned comprehensive plan. So the town, I don't know how much you're aware of, has been working on a comprehensive plan for about 2 years now. We're getting close to wrapping it up. Kate Jerzyk, who is currently on the planning board, has decided not to run, was one of the planning board representatives to this comprehensive plan. Have either of you thought about, would you be interested in participating in closing out this comprehensive plan project? And whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I've actually have been already part of the some of the conversations that we've had for the master plan. I worked in master plans for other communities myself, for the one for the city of Lowell as well. I'm familiar with what the process has been so far for our towns process, and I'll be more than happy to step in some of the conversations that we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember voting, like when the polls went out and we get the vote on that. And it's obviously it's the voice of the community and then filtered through the leadership of the town. So like, absolutely, like we have to jump in on that and drive it to its final state and then execute, right? And it's not just execute in a couple of years, it's a long-term plan. So we really got to take the wishes of the town and move those forward. So absolutely be part of our job.
Okay, so as you're aware, there's 40 Bs in front, which aren't in front of the planning board, but as you think about becoming a planning board member, what do you think could be done as a board to either help drive or determine what housing looks like here in Ashland or what business space looks like here in Ashland?
In terms of development itself, I think we took the very first steps, which is passing our MBTA communities overlays or spots that we have now. And I think that is the first opportunity to think about large-scale development and thinking about how we can develop housing through those places as a way to protect our open spaces and as a way to protect the smaller scale character that we have in other parts of the town. The 40 Bs are right now in the Zoning Board of Appeals, sort of out of the hands of the Planning Board. But I do think there are ways to have these conversations prior to getting to that level of intensity and where it's out of the hands of the Planning Board. I think there's ways to have conversations on how this type of development can be complementary to the scale that we have right now. I think the biggest exercise will be balancing out the need for affordable housing and preserving that smaller scale that people are used to and the smaller scale that we have in our downtown and how to negotiate and measure the trade-offs. And in those trade-offs is which we'll find the gains for both sides. There will be opportunities for affordable housing, but maybe there will be opportunities for better open space, for mitigating traffic, for mitigating parking, for mitigating the infrastructure that will be needed for serving this additional development, but at the same time see it as an opportunity to maybe spread the fiscal load, right? It's an opportunity to have different people now helping us with our tax base, with our residential tax base, but also it's an opportunity for the business community to have more people go into their businesses, because it will be hard to think about businesses if there's no people going into them, or if there's no traffic for them. And so that's the balance that we would have to play out. And we have already some zoning stipulations that we would have to abide for, but also serve for the foundation for how we have these conversations and do what's best for Ashland.
Great, Scott?
Yeah, some of the things I think that make like downtown areas so vibrant is the businesses that are there. And if all of a sudden you put an extra 250 families in that walking distance to it, and think of how popular Sub-Zero ice cream is going to be, right? Like, you're going to have a line, right? Maybe she's going to need a bigger place. That'd be awesome, right? Nick's is going to be slammed. That'd be awesome. Like, I would love there to be the line at the food truck at Clover Road, right? Those are really kind of where I'm thinking. So when we bring in housing and we do it correctly and we work with the developers well ahead, right? The second they're coming and talking to us, we're trying to be out there, be in front of it. Then we can kind of help shape it so we don't get our hands forced. Hopefully after these couple of 40B projects come in, we should now qualify to not have them kind of forced on us. And then that allows us to work a lot more with them to help build that community and still save the green spaces and make sure we still feel like Ashland, which I think is very important at the same time.
So one of the questions that was asked of the select board, and it's a little bit different for members of the planning board, but it's that balance, right? How could, as a planning board member, you help with the balance of bringing in the businesses, but bringing in growth? You both talked about 40Bs. I guess that's the question. How could you help balance, or based on a planning board? And again, we know that planning board, you have rules and regulations and you have zoning and stuff like that, but how could you as members help the discussion about creating some better balance between some new businesses and some new residential?
Well, the number one reason we got into the conversations of 40Bs was because we're not compliant with the minimum percentage of affordable units. And so if there is a way through zoning to include that conversation of affordability, and maybe hopefully to Scott's point, that maybe this development helps us get compliant, and so that we can have these proactive conversations. I think that's the first point, is getting to the point of not having to be forced development that's beyond our capacity and beyond our conversations and beyond our desires. So making sure that we comply with that requirement of the affordability. After that, then it's easier, because now we do have the power to have these conversations with developers. I think zoning is the ultimate regulatory powerful tool that we have to control development, and not control it for the sake of preventing development, but to do development the right way, to do development that supports the businesses, to do development that is complementary to the services that as a town we need to provide for the people who will be living in these additional units, but also development that will help our business community. And so I guess it will be on a case-by-case basis, but I think it's an opportunity to shape that before it goes to a situation in which we have no more control of. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we're at a point in which we can get to have those conversations proactively.
Scott?
And when we have conversations like that, it goes out to the developers, and they understand, like, oh, Ashland is open for conversation and is willing to help us, find the right places to put in the development that we want to do. Sending that signal out to the development community, whether it's for residential or for businesses, is a great signal to send out, right? We want other developers to look at Ashland and say, great town, great opportunity. They're willing to work with us within the right framework without changing the whole story of what the town is. And I think that's important. Like, we heard it recently at the town meeting about how people felt about how the town looks and feels. But it's a balance between how do we be good for business, keep Ashland feeling the right way, but also allowing people to move into our town without being hindered necessarily by affordability. So,
Speaking, affordability is one of those, it's almost like not a pretend word, but when you talk about affordability, certainly here in Ashland or in all of Massachusetts, talk a little bit about affordable housing and how you see that as a role. Again, not really a planning board purview, but it is in the discussion of what's going on with development, right? How do we support affordable housing, but how do we do it in a way that's maybe not through a 40B?
Yeah. I think that the first thing we have to do is really understand what affordable means. Affordable housing is not necessarily subsidized housing. Affordable housing, the standards at which we live today, is affordable housing for teachers. It's affordable housing for the police force, for our firefighters. So it's housing for people who have regular jobs, but it's still not enough to afford a home, especially in the market that we live in right now. I think, and Ashland, if I'm not mistaken, the average medium household price is around $600,000, which is not a small number. And it's something that is only going to keep increasing because we're part of the metropolitan footprint of Boston. So we deal with the same issues at different scales and at different in different topics, but and at different intensities. But the conversations of affordability are the same for the whole Boston area. And so how we deal with them is the question. And affordability, again, is not necessarily a scary word. I think it can be a word for opportunity, precisely to have people who have lived here for a number of years to remain in the community and for the future generations to remain in this community. And so hopefully we can remove the misconceptions about what affordable means. And affordability is achieved by having a diversity of typologies of housing, right? It's not only apartments, but it's also not single family homes. There's opportunity for townhouses. There's now opportunities for ADUs, the accessory dwelling units. So different footprints and different square footages allow us to have a diversity of affordability that now we can have the conversation of what affordable is for our community without the fear of what it really means, what we famously call in the planning world the capital A affordability and lowercase affordability, where I think we are talking about regular affordability for the middle income people of our town that deserve to remain here, that are looking for a home and hopefully can remain here.
Great. Scott, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you stole my thunder at the end with the ADUs and things like townhouses. But it's also like you could think of development in like, triplexes or quads, right? And even they don't have to be rentals necessarily. You can turn those into condos, and then that puts a 1 or 2 bedroom, 1 bath into an affordable space for somebody to buy. So yeah, I think more flexibility on that. So like if you can talk with developers and maybe instead of putting up 20 single family homes, we're putting up 10 triplexes or something. You've now added a little bit more affordability to get into the town. And then I also think of affordability, not the capital A affordable housing, but like, what goods and services are in town. If you say, hey, I have to go 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get to this type of service because it doesn't exist in our town, that causes, hey, now you need to have a car. You have to drive further. You can't just use public transportation to get to that type of thing. If we bring in those type of businesses we may be missing, that also helps with that. Just different opportunities that can help the town round out to become that affordable town that we want to aim for.
Right.
I didn't have a good word to go after that.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Well, gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank you both for running. I think it takes a real commitment to be willing to volunteer. Camilo, you're jumping right in with those 5 years, and I applaud that. Scott, you're looking to do the 2-year term. Scott, remind people what they need to do to get you on as a write-in candidate, what needs to happen so that you can get elected.
So you need to write my name in. That's the big thing right there. Preferably spelling it correctly, and hopefully it's right here on the bottom of the screen. But Scott Pelletier, Pelletier. If you write it down, I think on the very last spot on the ballot, and he's running unopposed, so it's not like you have to choose one of us or the other, but you have to fill in the circle and write the name. So please do both of those things.
Yeah, because just writing the name doesn't count.
Yes, you have to fill
Yeah.
in the circle and write the name. That's something I have to remember for myself. So
Great. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and spending a little time with us. I greatly appreciate it. To the residents of Ashland, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion with two people who are running, both for planning board. Camillo is running for the 5-year term, replacing Kate Jerzyk, who has been a great member the last 5 years. And Scott is stepping up for a seat that was vacated for personal reasons. But Scott, thank you so much for stepping up. Again, this is Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. Thank you so much for watching. I hope either if you were via YouTube or live through WACA-TV, that everything was good for you to be able to watch this. We greatly appreciate your support, and I hope that you all get out to vote on Tuesday, May 20th. The election is held at the Ashland High School. All precincts vote there. So show up, even if you're not sure of your precinct, and the wonderful staff and volunteers that are there running the election will be more than happy to help you. Scott, Camillo, thank you so much. And that wraps up this coverage and this discussion for the local election happening here in Ashland. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. Thank you so much for watching this special episode of Around the Clock.